Trey Ying's live for us on the ground in Tel Aviv. Trey, thank you. Let's bring in General Jack Keane, retired four-star general and Fox News senior strategic analyst. General, it's great to have you on. Trey makes a very good point there. He's talking about the Hamas leader and the relationship that he has with the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah. And Nasrallah is now warning that killing this Hamas leader will no doubt lead to an escalation of the war. Do you think that's fair?
Well, certainly we've seen the escalation of the war unfold right between our eyes here, given Hezbollah's own escalation of it in the northern part of Israel. They haven't unleashed, certainly, what their center of gravity is, the hundreds of thousands of rockets and missiles they have that can reach every major city and town in Israel. That has not happened. But we've watched Iran, who's at war in the Middle East, with Israel and with the United States, and they're using their proxies to do it, have expanded the war, certainly. They have managed to shut down a lot of the traffic that goes through the Suez Canal by virtue of the Red Sea, with the harassment of that trafficking and the attacks they've made against the United States and just shipping in general. So, will the proxies step up what they're doing? Likely. What does it really mean when we take out a leader like this? Well, we've been taking leaders out for years, and they do get replaced. But nonetheless, this is a prominent leader, and I think Israel is putting on notice. They're certainly after the tactical and operational commanders inside of Gaza, and they've killed a number of those. And there's top leaders there that they're in search of, particularly two, DF and Sinwar. But this is a political leader more than a military commander. And that puts on notice the entire political regime, to include those who are in Qatar, who we've seen on television many times, who obviously approved the attack on Israel. I don't see them being attacked by Israel until the hostage situation is resolved. But likely once that is resolved one way or the other, they're going into hiding. The Israelis have this, John. They have a history of tracking down leaders who have done harm to their people, and they don't give up till they find those leaders. We have the same history, and they're very good at it.
It's interesting, General, you talk about in Gaza, Israel, IDF forces going in looking for some more Hamas leaders. At the very same time, we're hearing reports that the Israeli War Cabinet looking for ways to lower the fighting level, maybe kind of try to get the Gaza fighting down to a low level in the coming weeks. Do you think they're looking for a way to end this conflict?
Well, if they end this conflict soon, they're going to hand a strategic victory to Hamas, because it will not be destroyed. Its leadership will not be destroyed. And focusing just on leaders, listen, from 2003 to 2006, we largely focused on leaders inside of Iraq. We used our soft guys to do what we called high-value targets. The war increased in intensity. The violence increased every single year. It was not until we brought in conventional forces, the so-called surge, and went after the al-Qaeda network, its support zones, and began to systematically dismantle it, enabled by what our soft guys were doing with high-value targets. Then the whole system worked. If the Israelis walk away from killing the fighters, from taking down the infrastructure in their support zones, and just focusing on the leaders, I think they're going to hand the victory to Hamas.
Yeah, we've got about a minute left, General. I want to get your take on Iran now sending a warship, an old warship, mind you, to the Red Sea to respond to these U.S. strikes. What do you think?
Well, I think it's, more show of force than anything else. I mean, no warship that the Iranians can produce is a threat to us out there. I mean, listen, the Iranians, by and large, are winning this expansion here. Half of the shipping is shut down and not going through the Suez Canal. That's impacting the global supply chain. I think we've all seen the issue here. It's pretty simple. It's not enough to just defend attacks against the shipping. You have to go to the source of the attacks, and then you should also go to the source of who's directing the attacks. So the source of the attacks are rockets and missiles, et cetera, that the Houthis own, and then the Iranians who are directing and facilitating this proxy war.
Yeah, just so you're clear, you're talking about going after Iran. You think it's time to go after Iran and make it very clear to them?
No, 2 to 3 months ago, we should have done that. We should have gone after the IRGC training center IRGC support structures, IRGC bases. These are the people that are focusing and supporting all of the proxy elements that are operating. Iran has declared a war in the Middle East here, and they're trying not to be directly involved with their own forces, but they're using the proxies to do it, and we're not holding them accountable. We have difficulty even mentioning their name. I mean, I think strategically that's a huge failure.
General Jack Keane, great to have you on, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, great talking to you, Trace.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.